Pleasure to welcome to the show Kaden Quirk, starting goalie, St. John's, and friend of the program. Was in the lacrosse goalie summit. Which one was that? 3, maybe 2, with your dad, Coach Quirk. But Kaden, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to hear the story of when you first jumped into goal. Do you remember that?
Yeah, so my story's a bit different. I obviously grew up in a lacrosse household. My dad coaching like my whole life pretty much. Um, so I my first steps were with the lacrosse stick. I actually grew up as an attackman, and then in the sixth grade spring, I our goalie, he said he didn't want to play goalie anymore, so kind of followed in my dad's footsteps, hopped in the net, and just loved it ever since. It was something that I was around my whole life. He obviously runs goalie camps and things like that. So I'd be at those, just never put them on until the sixth grade.
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of parents, goalie parents for that matter, would not encourage their kid to be a goalie. just
Yeah,
because of just because of, the position has a few more hardships than the others. But your dad, Coach Sean Quirk, he was all for it. And when you told him you wanted to be a goalie, he was extremely supportive.
yeah. I mean, I'm lucky. Both my parents, my mom and dad, are super supportive of me playing, and just having him there. Obviously, he played and has coached his whole life. It made the transition a lot easier. I was able to learn things at probably a quicker rate than most other kids were able to.
Mm-hmm.
So overall, it was a pretty seamlessly easy transition.
Yeah. Now, did your dad teach you the position? Because I just interviewed Colin Kirst for the show, and his dad was a great goalie as well. And I
Yep.
was surprised to find out. He's like, actually, my dad didn't really teach me that much about the position. It was others. It was others that
Yeah.
taught me while he was kind of coaching the team. So, for you, where did you learn the position?
Yeah. I mean, my biggest mentor in the game, and especially the goalie position, has definitely been my dad. He like we'd always just go shoot at the field, stay after practice and shoot. He coached me a little bit in my youth days. So we'd always just shoot. He kind of taught me everything: arc, angle,
Mm.
ball behind, all that good stuff.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And what a great coach! What a great coach! I've had Coach Quirk on the podcast. As I mentioned at the beginning, he's taught at the goalie summits. He's got the Pete goalie camps, which I haven't been to personally, but have seen a lot of great and heard a lot of great things. So, I mean, what an amazing coach to have to learn this position. And so he taught you all the basics, the positioning, the step, anything sort of I don't know, out of the ordinary that he taught you that you don't see a lot taught these days?
Yeah. I mean, one thing that over COVID, obviously his goalie on the Cannons now, Nick Marrocco, that he was working on, like on lower angle shots, just kind of taking a little step out on your arc to take away a bit more angle.
Yeah.
Like as a smaller goalie myself, that was something that I thought could help add to my game, just stopping some of those low angle shots. So like we spent that whole spring, summer, kind of just working on that, cutting away that angle, things like that. I mean, there's a bunch of things that kind of come and go that he's helped me with, but
Yeah.
that was one of the more recent things that really helped add to my game.
Interesting. Yeah. So when it's a really low angle, taking a step out to sort of, take up more of the cage. And you and I are the same, on the smaller side when it comes to lacrosse goalies. So certainly, like, the bigger we can appear in the eyes of the shooter, I think the better we're going to be. Right.
Right, correct.
Interesting. Yeah. So how's that going for you? Is that something that, that sort of stepping out at the lower angles, that's something you implemented last year, or you're now just kind of starting to work that into your game?
So I kind of went to it during COVID, kind of got away from it a little bit my senior year of high school. And then our coaches who came in this year, they kind of thought that was something that I could bring back in my game. So I'm ending up
Mm.
kind of really starting to do that again this year. And I think it's really helped me out a lot. Just like you said, taking away that angle as a smaller guy. it's important to get all that angle and make the shooters think they don't have as much to shoot at.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been
I
big
think,
for me.
yeah, I was gonna say it works as for bigger goalies too. I mean, you see like Dylan Ward do it. I was interviewing Josh Kirsten that did his final year at Hopkins, and like I saw him do it, and I'm like, what's going on there? And he's like, yeah, I'm just like I'm a bigger dude, and I just step out, and like literally they see nothing. So,
Yep.
it works for both all body types for goalies. But a lot of it, is a feel, right? Like you kind of got to know when's the right moment and where the guy's going to shoot. Because if you come out and he ends up not shooting, you're kind of like you put yourself in a little bit of a pickle, right?
Right. Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, like you said, Dylan Ward is obviously someone who's really known for kind of just playing no arc and kind of just really attacking the ball. I mean, he makes saves at the top of the crease, even outside of the crease. But I've tried to find that like happy medium. One thing I have noticed is if, like you said, if they don't shoot that back post, pipe to pipe, it is a bit tougher.
Yeah.
But I think overall, if your defense is there, playing the way they should be playing, it's definitely something that can add to your game in positive ways.
Yeah. Yeah. What would you say is your favorite part about being a lacrosse goalie, Kaden?
Oh, I think just the impact you can have on a game, have on your team. Something I don't really think many other positions in any sport offer you. I think it's the greatest position of all sport. Really, like you can just make one big save, and I'm sure it's just one of the best feelings ever. You always get that chance to see that next shot, which is something that's pretty cool. Even on an off day, I think you're able to just bounce back that next day at practice, or whether you have a game the next day. And I think that's something really cool about the position.
Yeah, hopefully. I know a lot of goalies that that struggle to bounce back, but yeah, like what's cool about it is, it's never final unless it's literally the last game of your career. And even then, like, maybe you got like some games that don't mean as much, but you still have something. So it's never final, right? You're always going to have another opportunity to get back out there. And I really like that point. As long as you keep that mentality, that mindset, like I think you're gonna go far, right?
Right.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Um, well, cool. So, you know, you're playing attack up until sixth grade, switch over to goalie. Did you have like some instant success? Like, were you pretty good at the goalie position, or was it like, I kind of stunk at first and then I got used to it and my dad taught me a few things and then I went up from there?
Yeah, like I kind of said, I like grew up going to all his like goalie camps, even prior to playing goalie.
Mm-hmm.
So like I knew like a good amount about the position for a sixth grader. And then like I kind of just got thrown into the fire. I was pretty decent at it. Probably wasn't playing the highest level of competition, which probably helped me out a little bit. Um, but yeah, I think I worked super hard at it even as a middle schooler. And I think it kind of did come natural to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's kind of why I stuck with it, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we tend to enjoy the things that we're better at. It's not to say if you're not good at it, you can't stick with it and get there, but
Yeah,
it's a harder path, right? Like the more you can see success early on in any endeavor, lacrosse, goalie, what have you, I think the more likely you are to stick with it. So that's cool. How long has he been doing the peak goalie camps, Coach Quirk?
it's been going on for 30 plus years now.
Wow.
Yeah, so he took it over from Coach Yeager, who he still shows up to peak every summer for the most part, and my dad just took it over from there when he graduated college.
That's amazing. I
Yeah,
had him on the podcast and I'm sure he mentioned that, but it had to be a while ago now. I'll have to look up that episode, but it was a while ago now, so I don't remember. So every summer you were out there with him, sort of on the field, just being a lax rat, huh? Just kind of
yeah.
just absorbing it up. Um, do you remember any particular goalies that like when you were a young kid, you're like, oh man, I would love to be like that goalie?
Oh yeah. A big one for me, in the pro ranks at least, was John Galloway.
Yeah.
Kind of like you mentioned earlier, I'm obviously a bit smaller in size. Inside of the net, Galloway is not the biggest guy in comparison to some of the other guys. And what I really loved about his game is he made a bunch of clean saves and got the ball up and out really quickly. I think that's something I tried to take away from his game. Just really leading the defense in the clear, creating that offense in transition, and really just being an all around player, not just a ball stopper. And then another one who probably not as many people watching know, Cam Bell. He was a 4-time All-American at Endicott, played a few years for the Cannons as well. But he played 3 years for my dad in college, and he was similar to Galloway, just great at everything. Really exciting to watch outside of the cage. Made a bunch of ridiculous saves. And I was probably probably like 7th, 8th grade when he was there. And I wanted to be just like him. I wore the baggy sweats because of him, had the long hair coming out of the helmet. So he's definitely a guy I looked up to growing up.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, I'll have to get Cam on the show. I've seen pictures and heard his name, but never spoken with him.
Yeah.
And then
he was go ahead, sorry.
No, go ahead.
He was fun to watch. I remember me and my mom were watching one of their games on like an iPad. He just went coast to coast, stuck a goal, ran back to the other side of the net. It was crazy.
Nice. I love it. Yeah. And so that's the reason, that is the inspiration you're telling me for the flow that we see now, that is growing in so nicely.
Appreciate that. That's part of it for sure.
All right. Talk to me a little bit about the flow management. You know, I'm a short hair guy, although I don't know if you could see, I'm going to keep a little bit of party, try to get a little party going in the back. We'll see.
I like it.
We'll see how that works out. But I've always been pretty much a short hair guy. So I don't know about flow, man. I mean, doesn't it get in your eyes like during the games?
So I like just soak my head right before we play, slick it back, and then chuck my helmet right on. It's usually not a problem.
Okay. All right. Not a problem. All right. Keep that in mind. And then obviously Galloway, he mentioned, I mean, what a legend, right? One of the things I loved so much about his game was the energy that he brings, right? Are you, when you think about yourself as a goalie, as a player, I mean, there's goalies that are certainly calm and, they don't say much. And then there's the John Galloways of the world. Where do you fall on the spectrum?
I'd say I'm probably right in the middle. I think a big part of my game is just staying cool, calm, and collected, and not really falling into the highs too much or sinking down into those lows. But I do like just being a competitor. There's definitely times where I'll get juiced up. But for the most part, I like to stay pretty calm, kind of just stay in my own head. And not really fall into too much outside of what's going on in my mind.
Yeah. And that works. I mean, that works for a lot of goalies. A lot of goalies say, like, I stay super even keel, right? Like, I don't get too high, but then that helps me so I don't get too low. I was certainly like, I don't know, I felt like I could manage the lows. So I rode the highs super hard. And like when there was a good play, like chase a shot out or a big save, I would definitely give it a yell and a gesture, which just helped fire me up. But every goalie is different, So do you start to have some success then in high school? And like, when do you start thinking about playing lacrosse at the next level?
Yeah, I mean, it's always been a dream of mine. Growing up, it was one of my dreams to go to Endicott, play for my dad. Then he obviously eventually retired from coaching at Endicott. And then it kind of switched. I kind of wanted to go play at the Division I level, play at the highest level I could. And I think when it really made the switch that it was something I could do was when I started playing club lacrosse for 3D New England. We had one of the better teams in the country for my grade. So that was definitely a point in my career where I realized that this was something that was attainable, not just really a dream anymore. And then saying that, like, obviously you have to work super hard get to achieve those goals. But I think there were a few distinct points that really made me realize that it was something that probably goes a little bit further than a dream, and something that I could actually achieve.
Talking about that club team, a lot of people ask me questions about club lacrosse. Parents more than the goalies themselves, but I'm sort of at a loss because I never played club lacrosse when I was growing up. Now, did that team? Did you like what went into that decision, or did you just kind of get lucky? Like, this is the club that is closest to me, and they also happen to be a great team that goes to great tournaments and gets a lot of looks from these prospective coaches. Or what goes into the club selection for you?
Yes. So funny enough, I started playing club in the sixth grade while I was technically still an attackman. And then eventually, when I wanted to make the full time switch to goalie, that club team they said that I couldn't do that with them, and they wanted me to keep playing attack. So I had to go look for a new club team. Tried out for Massachusetts, which is another big club team in the New England area, as well as 3D, obviously. Um, and I mean, both of those teams, they're nationally known, send a bunch of kids off to college every year. But like for me, it wasn't necessarily easy. I had to drive 50 minutes to go practice, and just like everyone else, had to travel to go to tournaments, 4 or 5 hour drives, basically every weekend of the summer. So it was something that it took time to find out what was right for me, but I'm super happy I ended up with 3D. They gave me a great experience, made me a lot better, and were a big piece in me getting recruited.
Yeah. So when you talk about like sacrificing and working hard, like a lot of it is just travel,
Yeah,
right?
no,
I
for
mean,
sure.
yeah,
The club circuit, it's at least around me, there's not too many big time tournaments. You have to go more into Maryland, Pennsylvania, uh, places like that, just to find those big tournaments with other big club teams and a lot of college coaches. So that's kind of what we had to do.
yeah. Was there one tournament in particular that put you on a lot of coaches' radar, or was it just little incremental
Yeah,
steps?
that's a good question. I think it's more incremental. I think, like, funny enough, the way that I got recruited to St. John's was my junior year, end of fall. I was getting recruited by a couple other places, and we had a tournament down in Florida. A good amount of my teammates were already committed by this point. I obviously wasn't, and I had a really good tournament down there. And Coach Miller, he reached out to me, wanted to get a visit. And that was kind of just one of those times where you get hot, you play really well at a tournament, and coaches kind of took notice. So I definitely think it's a bit of both. I'd imagine he saw me play before that and wasn't just
Yeah.
going off one tournament. I definitely think it is a lot more incremental of a build up, in comparison to just having one really good day.
Yeah. That makes total sense. Yeah, I probably totally agree. And then of course, when you have a great tournament, that's a bigger increment, right? So it's kind of like little steps. But
Right.
then, yeah, certainly, when you put on a show and you get hot, then a lot of coaches tend to take notice, which is great. So you mentioned that, a lot of your friends, a lot of your teammates were already committed. And for a lot of kids, that can be tough, right? September 1st comes around and they get no calls, and all your teammates are getting calls. All the kids on your club team are getting the calls. National Letter of Intent Day comes, and you see, oh, congratulations, this is a lifelong dream. And it's like you're like, damn, like you start to get the things going on in your head. Did you have that happen? And if so, like, what do you recommend to kids to get through that?
Yeah. So yeah, a bunch of kids on my club team were super highly touted. We ended up having the number one recruit in the nation, who ended up going to UVA. He's a stud there as a freshman. Um, and for me, it was obviously not similar to him at all. But I definitely did have schools reaching out on September 1st, and it was pretty consistent the first few weeks, of September into October. Then it kind of slowed down a bit for me. And I'd gone on visits to a bunch of schools. all the way through September, October. Then my phone kind of got dry a little bit. And I got really close to committing to this one school, sort of because of that. And then I ended up waiting. My parents wanted me to wait it out till the end of fall ball, end of that club season, just to see if anything else that I liked more came. And lucky enough, I did. Ended up here at St. John's. But if I'd say anything for the younger guys that are about to go through it or going through it currently, don't rush into anything. Like, lacrosse is definitely a factor in your decision, but the 4 years of college are something that stick with you your whole life. So I'd say don't rush into anything. Schools aren't, for the most part, going to give you a timetable of when you have to commit by. Just kind of take your time and wait till you find the perfect school.
Yeah. What was it about St. John's that made it the perfect school for you?
Yeah, I just had really hit it off with the coaching staff. Coach Miller and his staff were really good to me in the recruiting process. My dad knew him prior to him recruiting me, and that was big for me. I think just going into a spot where you can trust the person who's at the head of your program, I think that's a really big deal. And I had a great relationship with him. Outside of lacrosse school, very good school. I wanted to be close to the city. Obviously, having New York City right around the corner is something that's really cool. You get to meet a bunch of cool people here. And then I think it was just, I thought I could come into a place and honestly compete for the spot day one. I mean, by no means did I think I was gonna be given anything, and I think I worked for everything I got. But I did think there was a chance that I could come in and give it a really good shot to start as a freshman.
Yeah. Well, you end up earning that job, which was amazing as a freshman, earning the starting job. I mean, anytime, a freshman goalie can come in and earn the starting job, I mean, I think that says a lot about you and your work ethic and your character. And I'd love to hear that. But I have one more question about high school. On the website, it says you're a 6-year letter winner in lacrosse. Is that a typo, or did you really go to college or high school for 6 years?
So yeah, I actually went to St. Mary's to start off high school, but before that, it's actually a middle school,
Okay.
and it's connected to the high school. So my 7th and 8th grade year, I was on the varsity team.
Nice. Yeah.
Stayed at St. Mary's through my sophomore year, then ended up junior, senior year transferring to St. John's Prep in Danvers to finish off high school. So
I got it. All
it
right.
was,
So it's
yeah,
true.
it was a cool
6 years,
experience.
6-year letter winner, but there was 7th and 8th grade where you got the 2 additional.
Yeah. Yep.
Makes perfect sense. I was going to ask, being a shorter goalie. I mean, I'm 5'8" myself. I think you're 5'8" or 5'9". Yeah. Like around there. Was there ever like a time where you're like, man, I actually, if I'm going to play D1, I need to be in the goalie position because of that, or did that never kind of cross your mind?
I don't really think that crossed my mind. I mean, looking at it now, like, I don't know how many teams are looking for a 5'9", 140-pound attackman. But I think the cool thing about our position is you can be either my size, your size, or someone like Blaze Reardon, Dylan Ward. I mean, there's no mold for how a goalie has to be built. And I think there's things about my game that are different than someone who's 6'3", 220 that they can't do that I can, and vice versa as well. So I think that's something cool about the position. But that never really crossed my mind in terms of trying to play at the Division I level.
Yeah. That is what's cool about the goalie position is you can have 5'8", 5'9", 5'10" guys. I mean, even at the youth level, lower, shorter than that. And then, you can have the Kincannons and 6'3",
Right.
and Dylan Ward 6'6", and DeLuca's 6'7" or something like that, just crazy tall guys. So yeah, a lot of different styles. What do you think are some things that you can do that they can't, for instance?
I mean, those guys are obviously super talented, but I think like just like things like such as like hand speed, usually those bigger guys, they're kind of just like take away a bunch of angle and take small steps, kind of just get hit with the ball, hopefully get their hands there. I think like for me, my hand speed's one of the better parts of my game. I think my play outside of the net in terms of like getting ground balls and clearing the ball is something that I can add to a team that I think is important, create transition and things like that. But I think like obviously there's positives to both.
Yeah.
For the most part, everything's pretty comparable and similar. It's just little details within like arc and angle and things of that nature that switch.
Yep. Totally. Yeah, I tend to find that the shorter goalies are quicker. Just in general. I mean, like, you know, obviously there's probably some big dudes that are super quick and
Yeah.
athletic freaks. So, but you know, just in general, you know, you're a little bit shorter, you're a little bit quicker. You know, that first step to like chase out a shot or win a ground ball tends to be a little faster. So yeah, use the talents that you were given, right?
Right.
Love it. All right, so you know you start at St. John's last year. By the way, I don't even know if you remember, but we did. I was looking it up. We had the Lacrosse Goalie Summit 2 November 2020, and you and your dad went live, and that was the day you had signed your letter of intent to attend St. John's. So that was pretty cool, I thought.
Yeah, I do remember that now that you say it.
Yeah,
That didn't even cross my mind. I literally probably signed my NLI probably a good hour before we hopped on the summit.
that's amazing. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I totally remember that. I was super pumped. What is a red storm? Or
So
why are they
we're
called the
just like
Red Storm? Yeah.
yeah, they were previously the Red Men, and then they changed their name to the Red Storm, and it's just a storm. It's just a
Storm.
storm.
Just a red
Create
storm.
havoc. Yeah, just create havoc.
I like it. I like it. So talk to me a little bit about getting to, you know, D1 college lacrosse your first time, right? Obviously, I've heard a lot of goalies talk about it. It's a faster game. Everyone can shoot a lot harder. You know, how did you level up your lacrosse goalie game?
Yeah, I think I came in super well prepared. Just with playing with 3D. My 2 years at St. John's Prep really helped me out. I think just in terms of seeing higher quality shots and getting better every day at practice. But
Mm-hmm.
I think when I did get here, the talent and the speed of the game is definitely a lot different. But the thing I tried to keep in mind throughout my whole fall and even spring season last year was it's just the same game I've been playing my whole life, right? Like at the end of the day, yes, it is faster, but I'm still getting in between a 6x6 net, and my main goal is to stop the ball. So I think though things were obviously at a higher level, it was just a simple mind change that you just got to do what you've always been doing and not really think about those things that are a bunch different.
Yeah. It's a really interesting point because I think a lot of goalies, you know, when they take a step up in level, the shots are faster. And so they think, oh, well, I need to then like move a lot faster. I need to like play a lot differently. And to your point, it's the same game that you've been playing since whenever, since you were a kid, right? And yeah, the shots are faster, but that doesn't necessarily mean you need to change your game. Like you know how to be a great goalie, right? And it's just making those saves. Yeah, I like that point. And then yeah, I mean, talk to me about earning the starting role. How many do you have like 3 or 4 goalies on the roster? And like when did you kind of realize or when did the coach tell you that you know you had earned the starting role?
Yeah, so last year we had 5 goalies on the roster. A couple of them were banged up throughout the fall and throughout the
Mm.
spring, which is various injuries. Um, but I kind of just went in and competed. They had a senior coming back who's a 3 year starter last year who I have a great relationship with. Talked to him to this day, and he was tremendous to me. Um, but I really just competed all fall. Had some scrimmages in the fall. Played decent. In our end of fall breakout meeting, they were just like, "Yeah, we're gonna go with the experience, and play the senior."
Mm.
Um, and it kind of just pushed me over winter break. Went home, trained a bunch with my dad. Just saw a bunch of rubber. Came back. We scrimmaged Harvard a week before we played Rutgers. And I thought I had a really good game there. And that following Monday, the week leading up to Rutgers, they decided that I was going to get the start versus Rutgers, and nothing really changed for me. I just wanted to keep competing, keep bringing it every day to practice, and hopefully steer the team in the right direction.
Yeah, love it. Well, congrats. That's like I said at the beginning. I mean, that's incredible to get a start as a freshman. And I watched a bunch of your games. You played well. You played well, but I gotta
Thank
say,
you.
yeah, I gotta say, you guys play some incredible competition. I mean,
Yeah.
you got Georgetown, Denver, Rutgers, Jacksonville, and those are good established program. Not to say you guys aren't good, right? But like they're good. They're good. What is it like for you when, they put up 23 goals on you? They put up 18 goals on you. They put up 20 goals on you. What is that? Talk to me about how you deal with a game like that.
Yeah. I mean, getting scored on 20 times, it's not fun, right? I think there's things that you can let get to your head mentally, like seeing 20 goals go up on the scoreboard. But for me, at the end of the day, it was just you just got to compete through it, right? Like I can't control how many shots I'm seeing, or where the shots are from, or any of that stuff. I just have to try to make the next save. And I basically just play the game, um, give it all I had, and then watch the film, break it down, see what I can change, see what we can change as a team, and then go back that next week and just compete and hopefully get that win that next week. But I think mentally is the biggest thing that you got to keep. If you lose your head at any point throughout the season or in a game, those scores can get a lot uglier.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, you have to be very mentally strong, and you got to be a leader too, because if there's like a defenseman that's a little bit mentally weak, or someone like starts showing very negative body language because your team's down by 15, right? Like that impacts the whole team. And so being that leader and letting them know, being that leader in the sense of, not only am I going to have positive body language, and not only am I going to remain up, right, and keep competing like you mentioned, but I'm going to push others to do the same. Right? I mean, you agree with me on that?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I think just a huge part of our position as the goalie, as the last line of defense, is to simply be a leader,
Yeah.
not just in the cage but out of it. I mean, like I know at the college level, I had it in high school. Like we have our team values and things you follow as a program, and I think as the goalie, you can really hold people in check. I mean, you gain respect the day you walk through the door simply because you're a goalie, and no one else really wants to be in your shoes. So people respect you, and I think that's for a lot of the younger guys. I think that's important to realize. Like at some point, the people on the field with you, yes, they're your friends, but they're your teammates as well. So when you're out there, everything you say or they say to you is in the betterment of the team, and I think that's something that I really started to realize my last couple of years of high school, my junior senior year, and I really tried to carry over at St. John's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, there is that level of respect that's sort of built into the lacrosse goalie position. And if I'm being honest, that was one of the reasons I liked the position a lot. Like, because I saw, the level of respect that the goalie get. First in the handshake line, everyone goes to get the goalie
Right.
after the game. Like, doesn't really even matter what, the difficulty level of the save. Like every save, like people are just like, yes,
Yeah.
like way to
No, for
go.
sure.
So I love that element of it. And I never thought about that until you just mentioned it. So, what are you mentioned the values? You guys have team values. Could you talk about what those are?
Yeah. So respect. We just I mean, it's kind of self-explanatory. We just respect each other, respect our coaches, respect decisions that are made, whether you can handle them or not.
Yeah,
It's
respect the
it's kind of
game.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, respect the game. It's a huge one. The game we play is something that has so much history behind it. And so many like amazing stories. I'm sure everyone listening's heard. It's a Native American game, and it's really cool in that sense. And then I think well, another one that I believe in firmly is effort as well. Just always giving your full effort, always just trying your hardest, somewhat self-explanatory as well, but super important. And then the last one is your energy. That's one that I believe in super firmly. My dad would always tell me in high school and now in college, you can control your effort and your energy. And if you control those, you're going to be in a really good spot. Mac Jones, obviously Patriots starting quarterback, he got benched a few weeks ago on Monday Night Football, biggest stage in football basically. And after in his post-game press conference, he said, "Only two things I control are my effort and my energy." So I thought that was kind of cool and something that definitely translates over to the goalie position.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that a lot. What do you do then when um effort and energy, right? Energy to me is kind of like sometimes it comes in waves. And you can have the just naturally, right? And you can have those days where like, man, I feel great, like I'm pumped, I'm ready to play. Then you can also have those days where like, man, I don't really feel it today. So what do you do when just you have a natural day for yourself where it's like really low energy?
Yeah. I mean, everyone definitely has those days, but I think for me specifically, one thing I've really tried to hone in on when I wake up at 5:30 in the morning to go to practice and say and think like, oh, it's early, I'm tired, I don't want to go play or whatever it is. Like, there's not many people who are sitting in the shoes that I'm sitting in. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you you don't get to be here. You've worked for everything that you've got to be in this spot. And I think it's important to just really recognize that and just embrace the opportunity every single day and not sit back and complain you have to be up practicing at 6:30, just going out and doing it because it's what you love to do with the people that you love, that your teammates. And I think it's just important to really just beat every day, even if you're down or not wanting to do something.
Yeah, great answer. Gratitude and perspective, right?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, I love that. And then what about so on the effort piece, have you ever had a time where the effort wasn't there and like someone kind of had to call you out, or even with a teammate, maybe like, you everyone's going hard and you kind of see a teammate that's not putting in the effort that you would think acceptable. Any of those situations happened to you, and how did it go?
I mean, me personally, I mean, you've talked to my dad a good amount. I think safe to say, if I was never given 100%, um, he'd have an earful for me. So that's
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
not something that I want to go through necessarily. But I think like there's times where your teammates are gassed or whatever, and you do have to give them some extra encouragement and let them know that you're here for them and things of that nature. And like we talked about earlier, that's part of being a goalie, right? Like comes the fourth quarter and your defensemen are gassed after playing 45, 50 minutes of a game. You might just have to give them a sip of your water and let them know that we just got to finish this out and hopefully bring home this win. Things like that do go a long way.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I guess it helps to have as a dad a professional lacrosse coach, right? And he
Yeah.
also, I mean, I don't know him incredibly well, but we've certainly had a lot of conversations. He also seems to me like a great motivator of men, of lacrosse players.
Yeah.
What
Oh,
is that? What lessons have you learned from him in that context?
yeah. Oh, I mean, the leadership aspect and the team camaraderie is the biggest thing for him. I know it
Yeah.
always was when he coached at Endicott College a couple years ago, and now obviously with the Cannons. And he's a big believer in if you have the right guys, that you're going to be in a good spot to win, rather than if you have all the X's and O's down.
Mm-hmm.
He always says it's not about the X's and O's, it's about the Jimmies and Joes. So basically that if you guys have a really good locker room and great camaraderie between your teammates, you'll be in a good spot to win, no matter who you're playing against. And I mean, he's taught me so much, not just about like leadership wise in the sport of lacrosse, but pretty much just about life. And I know that it's something he does for all of his players as well. And I think it's super important. I think when I was looking at a school to play at, I wanted to go play for a coach who I knew I could trust, like I said earlier, and someone who I think would instill those same values that my dad's instilled in me. So yeah, it's definitely important.
Yeah, I love that. Not about the X's and O's. It's about the Jimmys and Joes. That's awesome.
Yes.
Um, and I'll tell you what, I haven't talked with many of the Cannons players apart from the goalies. And those Jimmys and Joes they got on the goalies, Nick Marrocco and Colin Kirst, are two just really solid dudes, two really solid guys, in
Oh,
addition to being great goalies. Yeah. Have you spent any time with them or chatted with them at all?
yeah. So, like I kind of said earlier, I've worked with Nick a bunch. He's given me a bunch of really cool pointers about the position, about the mental side of the game, things of that nature. And he's been a big guy I've looked up to mentorship wise throughout the past couple of years. I'll text with him every now and then. And then Colin, it was pretty cool because we opened up with Rutgers last year, which was my first start. And my dad was super close with Mr. Kirst before he passed away.
Yeah.
So I knew like going in that I was going to be playing Colin, and we at the start of the game we obviously went shook hands, stuff like that, and then at the end of the game we just like talked for a quick second, and it was pretty cool. He was obviously one of the best guys in the country last year.
Yeah.
So hearing some re-encouragement from him was pretty cool.
That is cool. What I'm curious what mental lessons Nick Morocco taught you, or what would you guys chat about?
Yeah, I mean, you can look back at his days at Georgetown when he was a freshman there, and more so in the recruiting process there when he was committed. And it was a very similar situation to me coming into St. John's. You look back probably what 8 9 years ago now, and Georgetown was at the bottom of the Big East, nowhere near the top 20 in the country. And he really just told me like it only takes a few guys to change a program, and it starts with that goalie position. And hearing that from him, it was pretty cool. Now you look at Georgetown, they're top 5 consistently every year. Best team in the Big East last year. So I think hearing him say that he went through a similar thing as me, and what I'm going to be going through the next 3 years, I think it was cool to hear, and it showed that things can change if you work and put your mind to it.
Yeah. Interesting. I love that. Yeah, I love that so much. It's like you could be getting beat, 25-5 every game, and you're only like a couple players, or only a couple
Right.
players away from like really turning it around. But guess what? It starts with the goalie. Like there's no other position on the field that can impact that final outcome like we can. Right. I mean, I think you mentioned that as the reason you love goalies so much is like the control and the impact that you can have on the game. So yeah, don't get discouraged, keep working really hard and level up your game. Right. And then who knows, maybe some other people will, maybe you'll get a new player and bam, you're right back on top.
Exactly.
Cool. What, in your own particular goalie game, you're heading into your sophomore year. I think you mentioned you guys are wrapping up fall ball. What, one, how's fall ball going for you? And two, like what, is there any particular element of your goalie game that you're specifically focused on improving?
Yeah. So fall balls went really well. The new coaches have been great this year. And I really think they brought in some pieces that are going to help us win, not just now, but over the next couple of years. And I think like in terms of my game, I'm kind of trying to just keep continuing to get better at everything. Just more so becoming into a leadership role. Obviously playing last year, I think that I can kind of more come into a leadership role as a sophomore, junior, things of that nature. But I think just keeping my game developing and not getting stagnant is something that I just really have to focus on at this point.
Yep. Love it. Love it. Level up that game. All areas,
Yep.
right? All areas.
Yeah.
What about, we mentioned some of those games against some of those tough teams, and you look at the final scores and it's 25, 20, 18 goals. What do you do, yourself mentally or even physically when you give up a run of 5, 6 goals in a row?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the best things that we do as a defense here is after every goal, just bring it in and as a defense, kind of talk through the possession and things that went wrong, things that we did well. And I think that kind of just keeps everyone on the same page. Not even just me as the goalie. I think just being on the same page with your defenseman, even if omities are stuck on defense, I think it's something that's really important. And I'd encourage all goalies to do. I know most goalies do it at the college level.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that does go a long way in terms of stopping runs and things of that nature. But for me personally, one thing I started doing probably start of high school, I think. After every goal, every save, every change of possession, I'll always hit my pipes the same way. And it kind of just resets me mentally and just gets me going towards that next possession. That's just one thing that's worked for me. I know over the summer at one of the peak goalie camps, we kind of talked about a similar topic to this, and a bunch of college goalies talked about it. And one of my buddies who plays at Hofstra, Massachusetts kid, played at Lord's Academy, Sean Henderson. He said when he gives up a run or a couple tough shots, he'll always start singing a song that calms him down,
Mm-hmm.
and it kind of just grounds him and puts him in a place where he can make that next play. And I thought that was something that I could potentially try out, or at least kind of tell other goalies to try out if they're looking for something to kind of cool them down.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. I've talked to a lot of youth goalies, just with Lax Goalie Rat. And yeah, there's a lot, especially the young girls. They like to sing the show tunes to get them, keep them calm,
Yeah,
keep them in the game. I thought that was pretty cool.
yeah,
So you've spent then, some time coaching with Pete Goalie, I guess helping out the camps. You helped out at one of the goalie summits. I have this theory that I mean, I don't even know if it's my theory. It's probably pretty well proven that when you teach something, you have to understand it at a whole new level.
mm-hmm.
And so I always encourage even youth to try and teach an element of goalie to another goalie. And I think by doing that, you learn it so much better, so much more profound. Have you found that in your own goalie game where all right, I'm teaching this to a 12-year-old, and now I go out there and I'm like, man, I understand this. I understand this concept way better.
Yeah, 100%. I think, I mean, I've wanted to get into coaching, hopefully at the college level when I'm done playing. But my dad would always tell me that. He's like, you teaching these younger kids, it's going to give you a new point of view on the position and things
Right.
that might seem so small about your game, but actually play a huge role in you stopping the ball. So, I mean, one example would be arc and angle. It's something that now at the college level you find it's just such a habit that you do it no matter what. But
Right.
when you're teaching it to a fourth or fifth grader, it's something they don't understand, and it kind of gives you a new perspective that it is super important. And if there is anything you can adjust within your arc and angle, it could go a long way. Because
Yeah.
if you look at a younger guy hopping in the net for the first time and they're not on an arc, it's almost impossible to make the save if they're not in the right position. So things like that definitely go a long way, and they give you a new perspective.
Yeah, totally. I find it a lot with the mental game because, one thing that coaches and a lot of goalies talk about is just this idea of a short-term memory, right? Something bad happens, cool, flush it, move on, right? As we move on to the next play, we're not thinking about that play in the past. And so I talk a lot about that with young goalies. And then as I'm doing my lax goalie rat, right, or doing something bad will happen. And now, because I've talked to that goalie, this young goalie, and I've told him hey, when something bad happens, you got to move on. That's sitting in my head. And now I'm like, wait a minute, something bad just happened. I got to move on, right? I can't, I control what you can control. I can't control that. Let's move on. And so that happens quite a bit for me, and I love it. So yeah, well, I guess bottom line is what we're saying here is get out there and coach, huh?
Oh, for sure. I think it'll help you in your own game. But I think like for me especially, it did reassure that I do want to get into coaching, and I'm
Yeah,
passionate about it, and I think it's a really good time.
I love it. I love it. Well, Kaden, what do they call you on the team, by the way? KQ?
Yeah, KQ.
KQ, I love it.
Everyone's been calling me that pretty much my whole life, so
All right.
I'm used
Uh,
to it.
yeah, well, thanks for coming on the show and chatting, sharing your experience. What do you go with for your gamer, the head?
Oh, I'm rocking the STX Eclipse 2 with the East Coast Eyes Impact Mesh, no shooting strings.
Ghost Pocket.
Yeah,
All right. Why do you go
little
with the
Sean
Ghost?
Scanone.
Yeah.
I like to feel a little click off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Just like to feel out my release point. So it's something I started doing in high school, and I've kind of stuck with it. I'm really liking it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Have you heard about the Eclipse 3? I think it's going to be called the Shadow.
Huh. I have not.
Okay.
That's interesting.
I've seen pictures of it, and like I posted it on my Instagram, and a bunch of not a bunch, two goalies said I'm using it, and they said it's amazing. Like it's a lot stiffer.
Huh.
Kind of all the attributes of the Eclipse 2, just a little more stiffer.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for that one to come out because obviously, I mean, the Eclipse 2 was kind of a game changer when it came out.
Oh, for sure.
All right. Well, like I said, good luck in the upcoming season, Kaden. Thank you so much for coming on. If you had to leave the goalies out there with the final piece of advice, what would that be?
Yeah. My last piece of advice would just be have fun. I think there's going to be days where it seems like you can't stop a shot or whatever it may be. You're going into practice, maybe not wanting to be there. I think at the end of the day, we're playing a game that we love, and you just try to have as much fun as you can, and it goes a long way.
Love it, man. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me.